Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the field of health psychology. Our mission is really to use your sources to explore that profound, undeniable link between your mind, your behavior, and, well, your physical health.
And that link, it's never been clearer than it was during the last few years, has it? The pandemic really threw a spotlight on how vital psychological factors are.
Absolutely. Things like information bias.
Conflicting motivations, the awful impact of loneliness. These all shaped how society responded and, crucially, affected actual health outcomes.
Exactly. Our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, they're directly tied to how vulnerable we are to getting sick and how well we recover. So what's the field that studies this connection scientifically?
That's health psychology.
Right. It specifically looks at the behavioral, emotional, motivational, and cognitive factors, basically what's going on inside your head, that influence preventing illness and treating it too.
And it's useful context because sometimes people mix it up with behavioral medicine.
Okay, how are they different?
Well, behavioral medicine is broader. It's interdisciplinary, mixing behavioral knowledge with biomedical knowledge. Health psychology, though, really zooms in on the human, the psychological side of things.
Got it. And this whole approach works under what's called the biopsychosocial model. That sounds important.
It's absolutely core. It argues that health isn't just, not being sick or purely a biological thing. It's an integration of three key forces.
Which are?
Biological factors like your genetics, how your nervous system works, then psychological factors, personality, how you think, and finally, social factors, your relationships, cultural background.
Okay, so give us an example, like stress.
Stress is perfect. Biologically, your autonomic nervous system kicks in. Psychologically, you interpret the stressful thing. Is it a threat, a challenge? And socially, your support network can either buffer that stress or sometimes make it worse. You need all three angles to really get the health picture.
Right, makes sense. Okay, let's unpack the main goal here. Helping people make real positive changes. We're talking about, starting healthy habits.
Things like exercising consistently, maybe quitting smoking, even just remembering to brush your teeth, or practicing safe sex.
But we all know, don't we, that knowing you should change and actually doing it can feel like they're worlds apart.
Oh, absolutely. And that gap is exactly what these theories of attitude to behavior change try to address. One of the foundational ones is the theory of reasoned action.
Okay, what does that involve?
It basically says for you to change, you need three things. First, a specific intention, I will start jogging. Second, a positive attitude about jogging. And third, feeling like your social group, your friends, your family, they approve.
But then there's an update, right?
Yeah.
The theory of planned behavior. What did that add?
It added a critical fourth piece, the person's perceptions of control over the outcome.
Ah, so it's not just wanting to do it, but believing you can do it.
Precisely. That's self-efficacy. You might intend to exercise, think it's great, have supportive friends, but if you secretly believe you just don't have the time or the energy, or maybe you think you'll look silly at the gym,
Then you won't even start.
Exactly. That perception of control, that agency, is why this model is so good at predicting whether people actually follow through on things like cancer screenings or quitting smoking.
And it's also key to remember that change usually doesn't happen overnight, right? It's not one big decision. It's more of a process.
Definitely. That's where the stages of change model comes in handy. It breaks it down into 5 steps. Let's maybe use an example, like deciding to start meditating daily.
Okay, good one. So stage 1.
That's pre-contemplation. You're not even really thinking about changing. Maybe you're stressed, but you haven't connected it to needing meditation, or you're just unaware stress is even a problem for you.
So you need something to kind of wake you up.
Exactly. Consciousness raising is key. Maybe you read an article, or a friend mentions how much meditation helped them. Something sparks awareness.
Then you move into contemplation.
Right. Now you acknowledge, okay, stress is an issue, but you're weighing things up. The short-term hassles, finding 15 minutes, learning how, versus the long-term benefits like better focus or less anxiety. It's that classic internal debate stage.
Feels familiar? What's next if you decide to go for it?
Preparation determination. This is where you start getting ready. You might download a meditation app, maybe look up local classes, figure out when you'll do it. Self-belief here is huge. You have to feel like you can actually take that first step.
And then the actual doing.
Yes, action willpower. You commit, you sit down for that first session, you start building it into your routine. Maybe you tell a friend to keep you accountable using that social network.
Okay, 5 minutes down. What's the final stage?
Maintenance. This is when you've successfully kept it up for 6 months or more. It starts to feel less like a chore you have to do.
And more just part of who you are.
Exactly. That's called transcendence. The new behavior is integrated into your identity.
But let's get real for a second. What about slipping up? Relapse happens all the time. How does health psychology view that?
This is so important. Relapse is viewed as a normal part of the process, not a failure. We tend to beat ourselves up about it, but honestly, most people who succeed long-term have tried and stumbled multiple times.
So it's not game over.
Not at all. It's data. It's a chance to look at what triggered the slip-up, what situation, what feeling, and then plan better for dealing with it next time. It's learning.
That reframing is crucial, isn't it? Okay, so we've talked about the how of change. Let's shift to the resources that help make it happen, starting with motivation.
Yes, and the type of motivation really matters. There's this thing called self-determination theory.
Okay.
It basically shows that intrinsic motivation, doing something because you genuinely want to, you enjoy it, or it feels meaningful to you, that leads to much more lasting change than extrinsic motivation.
Which is like doing it for a reward or to avoid punishment.
Exactly. When you feel like you're choosing it and you feel competent doing it, you're way more likely to stick with it.
And sticking with it often requires some smart planning, right?
Yeah.
Your sources mentioned something called implementation intentions.
Yes. These are powerful. It's not just saying, I'll exercise more. It's making a very specific plan for dealing with the inevitable challenges. Like, if I feel too tired to go for a run after work, then I will do 15 minutes of stretching at home instead of skipping activity altogether. It's that if-then structure.
So you decide in advance how you'll handle obstacles. Takes the stressful decision-making out of the moment.
Precisely. Another huge resource is social support. Just knowing you're loved and valued. And this comes in a few practical forms.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, there's tangible assistance, actual physical help. Someone brings you a healthy meal when you're busy or offers to watch your kids so you can go to that support group meeting.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, information. Getting advice, maybe suggestions on managing your time better, or reliable info about nutrition.
And the third?
Emotional support. This is simply the reassurance that you matter, that people care about you. It really helps buffer life's stresses.
What blew my mind in the sources, though, was that it's not just getting support that helps. Apparently, giving support is incredibly beneficial.
It's fascinating, isn't it? One study showed older adults who regularly helped others were literally half as likely to have died 5 years later.
Half as likely. That sounds almost unbelievable. Is it just feeling good about yourself?
It seems to be both psychological and physiological. Helping others can reduce your own stress, boost positive emotions, enhance your sense of purpose. And get this, another study found that spending money on other people lowered the giver's blood pressure.
Seriously, like comparable to medication.
About as much as some standard blood pressure meds, yeah. It suggests a real mind-body effect linked to altruism.
Wow. Okay. We should also touch on religious faith here. It often provides a lot of these elements, right? Moderation, community, meaning.
It definitely can. And there's often a link between strong religious faith and a healthier lifestyle, plus that built-in social support and sense of purpose.
But there's a nuance.
A crucial one, yes.
Yeah.
That strong link between religiosity and living longer, it's mostly a finding from the U.S. Internationally, you only really see it in very highly religious countries.
Interesting. Why the difference?
It's complex, but during COVID, for instance, there was a difficult finding. Sometimes non-affiliated individuals had lower mortality rates. This was partly because some religious gatherings conflicted with necessary social distancing measures, increasing exposure risk. It highlights the complexity between social support and public health needs.
That really puts a fine point on it. Okay, let's pivot now to the tougher side of this mind-body connection. The physical toll of chronic stress. If you've ever felt physically drained by stress, you felt what Hans Selye described.
Right. Selye's famous work on the General Adaptation Syndrome, or GAS, it describes this common physical response our bodies have to any sustained demand or pressure. It kicks off with the alarm stage.
Alarm stage. Sounds like what it is.
Pretty much. It's a temporary shock. Your resistance actually dips. Your immune system gets suppressed a bit, making you more vulnerable to catching something like a cold.
Okay, but what if the stress doesn't stop? Like a really rough patch at work that just goes on and on.
Then you enter the resistance stage. Your body rallies and fights the stressor more effectively. Your nervous system stays highly active, trying to cope. You might feel like you're managing, but you're running on high alert.
But you can't stay there forever, can you?
No. If the stress is chronic, unrelenting, You eventually hit the exhaustion stage, and this is the dangerous one. The constant wear and tear takes a serious toll.
What kind of toll?
This is where prolonged activation can lead to real physical damage, increased risk of heart attack, serious illness, organ damage, even death in extreme cases.
So what's the actual biology driving this stress response? You mentioned the HPA axis.
Exactly. The hypothalamus-pituitary-adrenal axis. Think of it as your body's central stress command center.
How does it work?
So when your brain perceives a major threat, the hypothalamus, that's the H, sends a signal to the pituitary gland, the P. The pituitary then tells the adrenal glands, the A, sitting on top of your kidneys, to release the main stress hormone, cortisol.
Ah, cortisol. I've heard of that. Good in a crisis.
Fantastic for short bursts. It gives you that energy to fight or flee, but the problem is chronic stress. It keeps that HPA alarm system switched on, constantly pumping out cortisol.
And that's bad long term.
Very. It leads directly to a weakening of the immune system. This whole area of study is called psychoneuroimmunology, how the mind, brain, and immune system interact.
Is there solid proof of this immune suppression?
Oh yeah, there's a classic study, the cold virus study. Researchers measured people's stress levels over the previous couple of years. Then they exposed them to common cold viruses in a controlled lab setting.
And what happened?
The people who reported high chronic stress were 3 times more likely to actually develop a cold than those with low stress. It shows a measurable hit to your defenses.
3 times. Wow. And it's not just colds, right? Chronic stress is linked to bigger things.
Absolutely. Higher risk of heart attack, high blood pressure. It's also linked to lower activity in your natural killer cells, NK cells.
And those are important because
NK cells are crucial for fighting off viruses and also for slowing the progression of cancer. So chronic stress can impair that vital defense mechanism too.
And we have to be clear, stress isn't just what's happening inside our heads. The outside world, our social environment, plays a huge role. Prejudice, discrimination. These are major stressors.
They absolutely are. Chronic stressors that literally wear down the body over time. The sources show clear links between experiencing discrimination, whether it's based on sexual orientation, gender identity, race, and higher levels of stress hormones and physical illness.
You mentioned anti-Black racism specifically.
Yes, the ongoing daily stress of systemic racism is a significant factor contributing to health disparities, like the lower life expectancy for Black individuals in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's a constant physiological burden.
And then there was that finding about systemic stress. That was really striking.
It really was. Researchers looked at state-level data on prejudice, both explicit, like what people say, and implicit, those unconscious biases.
What did they find?
States with higher levels of anti-Black prejudice scores had higher rates of serious diseases, things like heart failure, cancer, stroke, not just among Black patients, but among white patients too.
Wait, really? So living in an environment with high levels of prejudice is bad for everyone's health there, even people who aren't the direct targets?
That seems to be the implication. Even after controlling for economic factors, the overall climate of prejudice appears to create a stressful, unhealthy environment that negatively impacts the entire population's physical health. It's a powerful argument for addressing societal bias as a public health issue.
That's sobering. And we see a similar pattern with weight bias, too.
Yes. Just perceiving that you're being discriminated against because of your weight adds significant stress, which takes a physical toll. In fact, one study suggested that the stress from experienced weight discrimination accounted for over a quarter of the negative health effects associated with obesity itself.
So the stigma is a health risk in its own right.
A significant one. The social judgment adds a layer of chronic stress on top of any biological factors.
Okay, so given all these stressors, internal and external, how do we cope effectively? Let's talk strategies.
Broadly, we talk about 2 main types of coping.
Okay, what's the first?
Problem-focused coping. This is when you tackle the problem head-on. You try to solve it directly. So if you're struggling in a class, you don't just worry, you sign up for tutoring, talk to the professor, make a study plan.
That sounds like the generally preferred approach.
Generally, yes. It's linked to better mental health outcomes because you're actively trying to change the stressful situation.
What's the other type?
Emotion-focused coping. Here, you're not trying to fix the external problem, but rather manage your emotional reaction to it.
How does that look?
It might involve avoiding the source of stress, maybe denying it exists for a while, or rationalizing it's not so bad. Sometimes people use exercise or meditation purely to manage the feeling, not the problem itself.
Is that ever useful? It sounds less effective.
It can be very useful, actually, especially in situations where you can't solve the problem. Think about grieving a loss or managing a chronic illness you can't cure. Sometimes managing the emotion is the best or only thing you can do.
Right. Beyond those tactics, are there certain psychological traits that help people handle stress better?
Yes, a couple stand out. One is positive reappraisal,
Meaning?
consciously reframing a stressful event. Instead of seeing it only as negative or threatening, you try to find some positive aspect, maybe a lesson learned, or see it as less catastrophic than you first thought. Finding the silver lining, essentially.
Okay. And the other trait?
Hardiness. This is a cluster of characteristics. Hardy individuals tend to show strong commitment. They stay involved rather than withdrawing. They feel a sense of control over their lives. And crucially, they view problems not as overwhelming threats, but as challenges to be tackled.
Is there evidence this hardiness actually protects health?
There is. The Chicago Stress Project was a famous study. They looked at high-stress business executives, those who scored high on hardiness and also exercised regularly and had good social support.
Let me guess. They did better.
Dramatically better. Their probability of getting sick plummeted compared to high-stress execs without those protective factors. It really highlights that it's often a combination of psychological tools that makes the difference.
It's never just one magic bullet.
Rarely. Okay, so finally, let's nail down the 3 absolute foundational health behaviors that support all this psychological resilience. Number 1, physical activity.
We hear this all the time, but why is it so critical from a health psychology view?
Well, inactivity itself is a massive health problem, but exercise directly impacts mood, stress hormones, sleep, and biologically the effects are profound. Aerobic exercise is linked to longer telomeres.
Telomeres. Those are the caps on our chromosomes, linked to aging.
Exactly. Longer telomeres are associated with slower aging and longevity. One study showed low fitness participants were 3 times more likely to die over an 8-year period than highly fit ones.
Wow. And you mentioned a jogging hog experiment.
Ha! Yes, it's a great illustration. They trained pigs to run on treadmills. Even when their main heart arteries were artificially narrowed, the running pigs had developed extensive networks of smaller, alternate blood vessels supplying the heart.
So exercise literally helped build detours around the blockage.
Essentially, yes. It shows how activity can physically enhance our biological systems to cope with stress and damage.
Incredible. Okay, behavior number 2.
Eating, right. Especially in the U.S., being overweight or obese is arguably the biggest overall health risk, affecting, 70% of adults now.
That's staggering. What works for people who successfully lose weight and keep it off?
The National Weight Control Registry tracks these folks. 3 strategies consistently pop up. Regular exercise, usually about 30 minutes a day, careful meal planning, and weighing themselves daily.
Daily weighing. Interesting. Accountability.
Seems to be key for maintaining awareness and catching small gains before they become big ones.
Okay, and the third essential behavior.
Quitting tobacco. It's still the leading preventable cause of death.
And notoriously hard to quit.
Extremely. Nicotine is highly addictive. Most people need multiple tries. Effective methods often involve a combination approach. Going cold turkey, using nicotine substitutes like gum or patches to manage withdrawal, and getting behavioral therapy or support groups.
So bringing it all together, if we synthesize everything we've covered, what's the big takeaway from health psychology?
I think it's definitive. The mind and body are fundamentally inextricably linked. They're never truly separate. Your thoughts, your feelings, your social world, your behaviors, they are constantly shaping your biology, for better or worse.
So we really need to take care of our minds, our psychological health, just as much as our physical health.
Absolutely. Our brain and mind are what make health and life itself possible. We need to nurture them.
Okay, and as we wrap up, here's a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. We spent a lot of time talking about personal control, motivation, coping, things we can influence. But it's crucial to remember, psychological factors have limits. Scientists estimate that a huge chunk of cancer risk, for example, maybe up to 80%, might just be random cellular mutations during division. Bad luck, essentially.
That's a difficult reality.
It is. But that fact shouldn't lead us to blame ourselves or others when illness strikes. Instead, perhaps it highlights the ultimate application of health psychology.
Which is?
Using these psychological tools, motivation, optimism, social support, coping strategies, not necessarily to guarantee perfect health or avoid all illness. We can't always do that. But rather to help us cope with, tolerate, find meaning in, and engage fully with life, despite the inevitable challenges, the randomness, the difficulties that affect us all.
Using psychology for resilience and quality of life, even in the face of things we can't control.
Exactly. That might be the deepest dive of all. Hopefully this discussion gives you some valuable perspective on your own health, wellness, and then incredible human capacity for resilience.